Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us for this special interview with a man of many parts, a man who needs no introduction, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Thank you very much for joining me in Delhi this morning.
Thank you.
Mr. Schwarzenegger, you've been a bodybuilder, you've been a movie star, you've been a politician. Who is the Arnold Schwarzenegger of 2015?
Well, I think that all of those that you've mentioned, bodybuilding, fitness, being the politician or governor, and being in entertainment and movies and stuff like that, were things that I was very passionate about. And now I'm trying to kind of combine all of those things. Like, for instance, when I promote my environmental organization and promote a clean environment for the future, I use my star power from the bodybuilding and from acting and from being the governor and all this in order to further the agenda, in order to get really people to pay attention. Because I think people a lot of times don't pay attention to the environmentalists because they're not known to them, but I'm known to them. And so when I say, let's make sure to create a renewable energy future, let's make sure to get off fossil fuels. We are going to kill so many people, 7 million people a year die because of pollution-related illnesses. And when I talk about those things, then people pay more attention. So I use all of those things. That's why I have the institute, the Schwarzenegger Institute at the University of Southern California. And I also have, the after-school programs. And I do various different things, with Special Olympics and so on. I use my star power to give something back to the community.
It's interesting, of course, you're saying that in Delhi because we have the horrible distinction of being amongst the most polluted cities in the world. And on some days, the air here is worse than Beijing. Did you feel that when you actually flew in? And is that something that you would like Indian politicians, policymakers to actually wake up about?
Well, it was interesting because when I arrived here, my eyes were burning. And it reminded me in 1968 when I arrived in Los Angeles, my eyes were burning. The only thing is that California did something about it. Today you drive around in Los Angeles and we don't have that same pollution anymore, and your eyes are not burning because we passed certain laws. We passed a law to reduce our greenhouse gases, to roll it back to the 1990 level, for instance. We passed a law to have the Green Building Initiative to make all government buildings green and more energy efficient. We promote, the idea of having cars that are more energy efficient, more fuel efficient, and so the million solar roof, to create 1 million solar roofs additionally in California during my administration. So a lot of those laws that we passed, and also to reduce the amount of tailpipe emissions. So I think the only way you can really straighten out the mess is by passing laws that are very strict, and then some people have to make sacrifices on that. But the idea that if you do and create a green energy future, and therefore the economy will go down, that is a wrong kind of belief. Because in California, our GDP has gone up. We have a 3.5% increase in GDP, and the rest of the country, the rest of the United States, only has a 2.8% increase. So we are the most strict about the environment, but we actually have a great GDP growth. So therefore, you can mix a good environment and a good economy at the same time. And I think that India has to get to become a player in that and really participate in reducing the global climate change, the risk of global climate change. And I know it's very challenging.
Yes.
It's easier said than done. But I think that since India has accomplished a lot, they also can accomplish that.
Well, of course, you're in India at a time when we have a new Prime Minister, and the big news for us has been that an American president, President Obama, will be the first U.S. president to be part of our Republic Day parade. It's an exciting time for Indo-U.S. relations. What do you think of the new Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, a man of action? Some would say, like you were a man of action as well. What do you think of the new Prime Minister and the whole buzz? We had him sell out Madison Square Garden, which is something which is reserved for American rock stars.
Well, I think that he obviously is someone that has been picked by the people because they felt that he's a great leader. And I think now is his chance to really perform and to turn the country around when it comes to environmental issues and some other issues. There's a lot of challenges. The United States has a lot of challenges, European countries have a lot of challenges, and India has its own challenges. And so I think that's why we choose certain leaders to go and to turn the situation around and to make it better for the people, to create more jobs, to be more part of the international community, to be environmentally friendly and to be economic friendly and all of those things. So he has a lot of things on his plate. But
Were
I
you
think that he
surprised?
has started with a big bang, and I think that he has a good opportunity to do something about all those challenges.
Were you surprised at the reception he got? For a politician to get a reception like that in Madison Square Garden? You may get one like that, but most politicians, American or Indian, wouldn't.
No, but I think that because India is a big player on the international stage, and I think that he has been looked upon as someone that could bring some fresh blood in there and really get things done. So people are really kind of very supportive and kind of in awe about his leadership. So I think that that has shown. And look, I think Americans in general wish India a lot of luck and want to work with India and trying to overcome a lot of those obstacles.
At least in India, they say politicians never retire. You have retired in a sense because you can't, of course, run for US president because you're not born in America. What's your take on who you think could be a possible future president? I know you're a Republican, but there's the whole talk about whether it could possibly be a woman if Hillary Clinton decides to run from the Democrats, and also, of course, whether Bush runs, and whether there's a whole concept in India. We've often talked about dynasty in politics, but it's interesting that in the US as well, political dynasties seem to be alive and kicking.
Well, as you know, it doesn't matter what country you're from, name recognition is one of the most important things. And the same is also in entertainment. So I think that if you are, a Kennedy, if you're a Bush, if you're Clinton, I mean, these are all names that everyone is familiar with, and therefore people will look at that more seriously than someone that doesn't have a name. So I think that there is, great hope for all of those, that are running. But I think on the end, it is very early now to still judge on who is going to be really a serious player, because we don't know yet who is going to win the primaries. Who does the Republican Party pick? Who does the Democratic Party? Who will they pick? Is it going to be a man, a woman? Is it going to be black or white or all of this? We don't know. So I think it's early. But one thing we know for sure, that it all depends on what the outcome is of this last election. Because in the last election, the Republicans have taken over the Senate also. And so if they do a good job with that, being now in a majority, then that would have an effect in 2016. If they don't do a good job, then that would have an effect, and the Democrats could be back again. So it really depends. As you know, with politics, it just goes like this.
It's a game of
to
chess
me,
right
in the
now.
end, what is important, and I always say this, is to politicians, and especially now, since I have the institute at the university, what is important is not that you serve the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, that is, in the end, you serve the people. You got to do what is right for the people, and you got to do what is right for the health of the people, for protecting the people, for the safety of the people, to get jobs for the people and all those things. That is the key thing, and it's not so much is he a Republican, is he a Democrat, is he conservative, is he liberal, because remember, especially when it comes to the environment, I mean, there is no democratic air or liberal air and conservative air. We all breathe the same air. There is no conservative water or liberal water. We all drink the same water. So we got to go together and clean the water, together clean the air, and create a healthy environment so we don't have all of those millions of people die all over the world because of pollution-related illnesses.
We had some viewer questions come in for you. The first one was, when you look back at the mistakes you made in your life, which would you sum up as the biggest mistake of your life? And the second question is that, well, let's leave aside the politics I'm asking about, but what about Bollywood? Would we ever see, I mean, you've got the prequel to Terminator coming up, you've got triplets, I've heard, coming up as well. Any possible plans in Bollywood? So you can decide which
Well,
one
I think
first.
that since India is a very important player in the entertainment business, they're doing over 1,000 movies a year, which is much more than the United States does. A lot of times, producers from India have come and met with me and wanted to find a way of how we can connect and do work together. So I think that down the line that will happen, that we will be doing something together. I will be delighted to do that. So that's number one. Number two, when it comes to all the other stuff that I'm doing, I mean, I think that I, like as I said earlier, try to combine all of the things that I'm doing, and in entertainment, in acting. I love being back in the acting profession, and we have just finished, like you said, Terminator 5, The movie's going to come out in July next year, and there's another one coming out, Maggie, that's coming out before then. So I'm doing a combination of things now, the Institute, the environmental organization, the show business, and all of those things, my after-school programs that I'm very passionate about. So I keep my hands, kind of full with activities and have a very busy schedule.
And the biggest mistake of your life, of course, there was
Biggest
controversy
well,
about
I
the
don't
breakup
think-
of your marriage.
I think that I've made mistakes in bodybuilding and have failed to win competitions, but I got up and dusted myself off. I failed in movies where movies went in the toilet and didn't go well. I have failed in investments, and I have failed in my personal life with my marriage. And so I've had my failures, but the important thing is in the overall look that you say, okay, I've had more successes than I have failures, and that you learn from the mistakes that you have made and from the failures that you had.
For the NDTV viewers, could you just give us the dialogue which I think defines you for so many people around the globe? It'd be great if you perhaps just looked at the camera and said, I'll be back in India.
I'll be back in India.
Wonderful interviewing
Good.
you, sir.
Thank you very
Thanks so
much.
much for being
Thank
here.
you.
Thank you.